Sairam to everybody, offering myself at Bhagwan's lotus feet, respected guest speakers, respected teachers, and my dear brothers and sisters, a loving Sairam to one and all. Today, I will just be giving a brief introduction to my work, which is on the computational and experimental studies on SERS, Surface Enhanced Raman Spectroscopy, for the detection of neurotransmitters. So just a brief introduction to Raman spectroscopy and SERS. As we all would know, there are two primary methods by which light interacts with the vibrational states of matter. One is Rayleigh scattering, another is Raman scattering. Of course, if it is absorbed, we would have IR spectra also. But in the scattering process, there are two different scattering processes in general. One is Rayleigh scattering, which is an elastic scattering, where the incident photon does not change in energy. And we have Stokes and anti-Stokes Raman scattering, which basically have a change in the energy of the photon. So basically, there is some exchange of energy happening with the molecule, and it is an inelastic scattering. And this is the Raman effect, which was discovered by Sir C.V. Raman in the early 1920s and 1930s. But what was found by him, even though it was initially realized that it was of great analytical potential, Raman scattering was not useful as much until the early 1970s, because Raman scattering happened to be very weak, of the order of 1 in 10 million photons would undergo Raman scattering. So in 1974, Fleischmann et al., their group discovered that the Raman signals intensity were multiplied manifold or enhanced manifold in the presence of a roughened metal. So this phenomenon came to be known as surface enhanced Raman spectroscopy, because the Raman signals were enhanced in the presence of a metal surface. And once this phenomenon was discovered, it was exploited as a sensitive and specific nanoscale phenomenon for detection. And you can see a graph on the right that typically demonstrates the comparison between Raman spectroscopy and SERS. We can see that the Raman signals of a 0.1 molar solution of rhodamin 6G. Rhodamin 6G is a standard compound which is used to study the efficacy of Raman substrates. So we can see that the signal is extremely low even for a 0.1 molar signal over here. Whereas on top we have the SERS signal, which is a 1 micromolar signal, and you can see that the enhancement is very great as compared to the plain Raman spectroscopy. And this is the potential of SERS. It can detect signals from compounds which can usually not be detected by conventional Raman spectroscopy at that concentration. There are so ever since it was discovered by Fleischmann's group, there have been a lot of ways of performing this SERS experimentally. Historically, first they started with colloidal systems and electrochemically roughened silver. These were the first two systems historically. Of late, ever since nanoscience took over, metals nanoparticles which were deposited onto substrates have been gaining traction as one of the most popular methods of developing SERS substrates. And here on the right, you can see this is taken from a publication which is a pen on paper approach. So the silver nanoparticle solution is concentrated and put as ink, and that ink is deposited onto an A4 paper. So this is a very simple technique of getting an SERS substrate which can enhance the Raman signals. in my work, I had used a similar substrate where instead of using a pen, I just drop casted it using a pipette, and I could obtain a very easy uh, way of obtaining an SCRS substrate. There are various applications of SCRS, right from detection of low abundance biomolecules, detection of proteins in bodily fluids, trace element detection, drug and explosives detection, and food quality analysis. The thing about SCRS is, as many of the esteemed speakers have mentioned, one of the desired quality of these point of care devices and for the upcoming technology is that it should be non-invasive. And SCRS is a completely non-invasive technology where you just need to put an amount of sample onto the substrate, and based on the efficacy of the substrate, it can show up signals for concentrations as low as what you can see here, 10 power minus 11 molar. And there have been cases, there have been applications where SCRS has been exploited for even single molecule detection. So coming to my work, I have worked on a biologically important a set of chemicals called neurotransmitters. So neurotransmitters are substances that are produced by neurons to transmit messages. Until the early 1900s, it was widely believed that neurons communicated with each other only through electronic messages. But the 20th century will reveal that neurons could communicate with each other even by chemical means. And these chemicals are released into what is known as the synaptic cleft. It was a small gap discovered between the neurons, and these neurotransmitters are released into the synaptic cleft and they bind onto specific receptors on the membrane of the next neuron. And depending on the amount of neurotransmitters that are deposited onto these receptors, the so it can communicate what is the health of the person, particularly mental health, because the neurons are associated with the brain. So there are a variety of neurotransmitters. I have chosen 6 of these for my work. We can see there is dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine. Norepinephrine and epinephrine are more popularly known as noradrenaline and adrenaline. Dopamine is a compound which indicates the mental status of a person, and if levels of dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine are not proper, then they are indicative of diseases like Parkinson's and other mental illnesses. So I chose 6 neurotransmitters which are the most abundant in our human body, and these are computationally optimized structures of these neurotransmitters. So in my work, I have aimed to study the SCRS of these compounds, both in a from a computational point of view, as well as from an experimental point of view. So in the from the computational perspective, we calculated the Raman spectrum of these neurotransmitters as they are represented here, as well as in the vicinity of silver atom clusters. So I studied the Raman spectrum of these compounds where silver atom, 1 atom, 2 atoms, 3 atoms, and 4 atoms were placed one after another. And we studied the Raman spectrum, how the intensity varied as we increased the as we increased the number of atoms in the silver cluster. And the result is shown here. So there are some specific modes which are linked to the benzene ring, the deformation of the benzene ring. So the vibration caused by that deformation leads to the Raman spectra, and we can see that as the number of atoms in the silver cluster increases from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, there is a perceptible increase in the Raman signal for specific peaks. And this is indicative of the Raman enhancement in the presence of metal. So these were the computationally calculated spectra. I'm sorry, I'm not able to provide more details on this due to lack of time. We also compared it with the experimental spectra, and we can see that on the top, the orange color represents the SERS of dopamine at a concentration of 1 millimolar, and we are able to assign vibrational wave numbers to these and also compare them with the calculated wave numbers, and we could assign them to various vibrations. So that dopamine 1 millimolar SERS signal is compared with a dopamine 1 millimolar on fused silica. So for this particular spectrum, to obtain the SERS, I have used a fused silica based substrate where silver nanoparticles were deposited on the fused silica, and laser sintering was employed as a method to kind of stick these nanoparticles onto the fused silica. So in a very simple explanation, once the silver nanoparticle paste is uniformly pasted onto the fused silica, the heat created by the laser would cause the nanoparticles to aggregate and create small crevices within the fused silica. And this little bit, this amount of heat which is created causes the silver nanoparticles to get stuck onto the fused silica. Silica is nothing but like a small glass slide. So this is the spectrum which we obtained from that particular substrate. And that is compared with the same concentration of dopamine, but on fused silica without the silver nanoparticles. So this is conventional Raman spectroscopy. And you can see there is a stark difference in the shape of the spectrum as well as the peak heights. A lot of peaks are not seen without the phenomenon of SERS. So we also went down in concentration and checked as to what was the lowest limit of dopamine we could detect, and we found that we could detect as low as 1 micromolar level of dopamine. So these neurotransmitters are important biological compounds, and once we perform such an analysis for other neurotransmitters and we can distinguish what are the peaks that are coming from these particular neurotransmitters, we could potentially employ them in a real life sample. If you have a plasma sample and you just put it on the SERS substrate, based on the height of the peak, which is calibrated, we could detect the amount of neurotransmitters up to a certain level. So this is an application of a physics phenomenon, which is Raman spectroscopy, enhanced by a surface which is applied for a biologically important compound. I thank you all for your patience, and I would like to take any questions if there are any.
Yeah, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Is 785 the most preferred? How about 1064 nanometers?
Right now, the Raman system which we have is a 785 nanometer laser. Particularly for biological compounds, 785 is very good because it is away from the fluorescence peak of bio compounds. Usually biological compounds have their fluorescence peak, that is their absorption peak, at somewhere around 200 or 300 nanometers. So 785 nanometers is good, sir. I don't think it having a 1064 nanometer would have a significant improvement over a 785 nanometer laser for such compounds.
Okay. Second thing, this is just a comment, like
Yes.
Like in a lab, you can basically use purified samples and get the Raman spectra.
Yes, sir.
when you are extracting something from a patient and trying to read that using Raman,
Yes, sir.
I think there will be some challenges like interference or contaminants which could corrupt the
Yes,
Raman
so
signal.
studies done on plasma and real-time imaging of ACRS. So basically, for a given substrate, the way you fabricate the substrate, there will be certain peaks of the compound which will shoot up. For example, in this particular ACRS, we see this 949, we see the 1385 and 440 and 1607. So I'm just choosing some 4 peaks which are becoming extremely prominent. So once 3 or 4 such peaks are identified for one particular substrate, again, if I fabricate a different substrate, the shape of the spectrum could be different. So we need to study these with pure samples for sure. But once we study these and identify 4 or 5 different peaks that are going to be the signature peaks of the compound, we can use these for quantitative analysis once we do a calibration. This has been reported for other standard substrates earlier. So
Thank you.